Welcome back to Green Disruptors, the podcast where we explore the changemakers tackling climate issues with bold ideas and grassroots innovation. Today's guest is Robert, sales director and worker owner at Rust Belt Riders, a Cleveland-based composting co-op, redefining how communities handle food waste. From working with restaurants and hospitals to creating living soil returned to local farms, they're building a truly circular economy powered by people. Let's dive into how this mission-driven business is turning waste into wealth and justice. All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today, Robert.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tell us about you and your role with Rust Belt Riders.
I am the sales director at Rust Belt Riders. I'm also a worker owner. We are a social enterprise that works with many different types of businesses, restaurants, hospitals, grocery stores, offices, basically anywhere food waste is being created. We work with those partners to divert food waste from the landfill and instead turn that organic matter into living soils. And so I am one of about 35 professionals, a growing team, and 15 of us are worker owners at the business.
So how long has Rust Belt Riders been around?
10 years, actually. We're going on 11 years this summer.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long you've been with them, but I'm curious, tell us why the co-op model and kind of what the purpose is behind that and why you chose it.
So we believe that food scraps are a resource. Part of the issue that we aim to resolve is that we are underutilizing a vital resource to our food systems. The parts of food that aren't eaten, the parts of food that go bad, all of that is really important to recycle back into the soil systems and to use to further fertility for future generations. There's a whole wide reason why, many reasons why we want to apply compost at scale. But before we get into that, the reason that we model ourselves as a co-op is because if this is a community resource, it's important that it stays in the hands of the people. And so the way that we are able to do that as a for-profit business is by modeling our business to be as horizontally organized as possible, to allow wealth pathways for our employees as well as being part owner of the business. And that keeps our mission true. That keeps a group of people deciding how this business runs instead of somebody at the top that's maybe disconnected from what happens on the ground.
Just from, it's like if you all have skin in the game, this is like your future is all tied to it. So it makes sense why all of you would go above and beyond to make sure that the company is growing. So that's got to be a part of it too.
Yeah. Ownership is definitely a means through which folks can secure a future for themselves. We think that that's one of the biggest barriers to generational wealth is owning the means to the production of whatever you're working in, right? And so if we can afford that to everybody that works with us, it allows for us to build a team that's willing to stick around through the ups and downs and the challenges of a small business, and also have that skin in the game to maybe go the extra mile and work to make sure that we're successful at what we're trying to accomplish.
I get the vibe for sure that all of you that are involved are deeply care about environmental justice. How did you get recruited in the first place?
I applied at Rust Belt Riders during a really tumultuous time, during the heart of the pandemic, actually, in 2020. And so at that point in time, I was working as a freelance photographer and a yoga instructor. And so both of those industries were completely decimated overnight with not being allowed to, be around each other, right? We had to social distance. And so I applied to be a driver for the company, what we call a hauler, the folks that drive the vehicles and pick up the organic waste from all of our different clients, at a time where all the restaurants and all the event spaces and all of those things were also closing, right? And so it was a time in Rust Belt Riders history where we were pivoting from the commercial sector and going harder into the residential sector because people were now staying at home and people were eating more meals at home. And people were watching the TV screen and wanting to do something and maybe having a little bit more eager or enthusiasm to make a change and do something different. And so we saw our residential program actually really take off at that time. So I kind of just got in at the right time and place. I also actually know the co-founders, Michael Robinson and Dan Brown. We go way back to about 10 years ago. They were working at a farm-to-table restaurant in Ohio City, here in Cleveland. And it was the time where, that farm-to-table conversation was really at the center and everybody was really concerned with where's food coming from, do you know your farmer, eating local and all this. But after all of that hard work in sourcing and concerning ourselves where our food comes from, the conversation often stopped there instead of continuing to where's our food going after? Yeah, so we talk a lot about farm to table, but what about, the table to the farm? And so Michael and Dan, the co-founders, were, pitching this idea to all of us, and that's when they had started riding their bicycles, collecting food scraps from some early adopters of this idea to local garden beds, local community gardens. And so that's how the name Rust Belt Riders was born. It's not obviously a composting name, but it's sort of reclaiming that almost pejorative term Rust Belt into something that's actually transformative, right? Something that is now revitalizing and transforming into something that is a whole new identity, and doing it on the bicycle. So that's where we get our name.
Awesome.
And that's how I started.
Okay, thanks for that background. I'm curious to kind of the two sides of this business. So there's, you started with more the commercial side, and then you mentioned the residential. Can you give us kind of an overview of what each of those look like?
Yeah, so we have 3 different service models, 2 residential and 1 commercial. Our commercial service model works just like traditional waste management might, where you have a weekly pickup. Where we're different is that we're cleaning out our bins weekly, and we're also weighing that material and providing that diversion data back to our clients so that they're able to track their environmental impact, add that to their ESG reports and things like that. We also provide education and training, and we make it really easy for folks to start a composting program without interrupting any of their operations. So we're pretty much like a plug-in for what's already going on in their waste streams.
I'm sure places like grocery stores don't have the extra staff to be doing this on their own. So when you built the solution, I'm sure you had that in mind. So.
Exactly, yeah. It's very much a turnkey solution for folks that are looking for a really visible and sort of low-hanging fruit, if you will, sustainable change that they can apply to their business model. And anyone can do that. So offices, grocery stores, schools, hospitals, anywhere there's food being created is a qualified potential client for us. And then the residential model works in a similar fashion, but through a weekly pickup curbside, where we pick up a 5-gallon bucket with the food scraps from folks at home in their kitchens. We also wash that bucket out as well, also weigh that material as well. And then we also have a drop-off program that is available to anybody in the area. Our county is Cuyahoga County. We have 47 different drop-off sites throughout the community where folks can bring their food scraps and deposit them. So if they don't have a bin,
there's still a place they can go.
That's right, yeah, 24/7 too.
Oh, I wish you were here in Salt Lake. That sounds like I know so many people who would be so interested in that. So let's talk about that. So how are you finding clients? How's that going? What is growth looking like right now?
So we have around 4,000 families that we're working with right now in the Cleveland area in those 2 residential models. And then we have a little over 300 businesses that we're working with as well on the commercial routes. And we like to consider these folks the coalition of the willing, because here in Cleveland, Ohio, this is being done at a time where there's not any financial incentive. There's no kickback for doing this. There's no regulatory scrutiny really, or laws imploring that folks compost their food scraps or their organic waste. So at this point in our business and in our history, it's very much the folks that want to work with us.
It's the early adopters that care.
That's right. And so it's about making those community connections. It's about finding your people, supporting each other, and really trying to create that grassroots circular economy with face to face with people in the community. We're now moving into a period, I think, where we'll be doing a lot more outreach and trying to convert people into the composting model. And therein lies our challenge and our next stage of growth.
So, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the buyer's pyramid, but there's that 3% who are willing to buy now, and in this space, it's probably people who are extra aware of all the climate issues. They're wanting to make an impact. So now you have to go to people that might be more on the neutral side, and so the messaging might have to change. So I'm curious what those sales conversations have looked like, and then maybe how we might have to tweak it. So let's take the grocery stores, for example. Like, are you able to provide them some kind of an ROI, or is it just you're solving a problem and it's a problem they care about?
So there's the potential to save on your dumpster fees and on whatever other waste management services that you are using, because we're asking you to take your waste and put it here instead of here, right? So you should naturally start to see a savings, especially when we're talking about large clients like grocery stores that have multiple
Right, so instead of
chains
having
and
3
things like
dumpsters,
that.
you might only need 1.
Right. And then the other value proposition is that it's also a lot cleaner, and it's, we come up against the dirty reputation a lot with compost because people might think that that's going to be smelly or it's going to attract vermin and all of these sorts of common concerns. But it's actually quite the opposite. It's that when we sort our material and when we are staying on top of it on a weekly pickup schedule at the same day, and we're cleaning out that container every single week, it's actually a much cleaner waste stream than it would be if it's all mixed together in a dumpster. You might not get that picked up every week. Maybe it's not the same time. Maybe sometimes it doesn't come. And so, we like to say that we're like the garbage men, but like an upgrade, you'll know us hopefully by name, and you'll be able to call our customer service team if you have an influx in material for some seasonal shift or some novel event at your event space or at your office. You're hosting some large amount of folk that's going to incur more food waste. That sort of tailored approach and that customer service aspect is also a valuable thing to folks. And then, of course, the data, too. So the fact that we can weigh that material and send that report out is helpful to certain clients, right? Folks that are more focused on ESG reports and things like that really value that piece of the model as well.
If they use it for, obviously they care internally, but it's got to be good PR. It's like I would rather shop at a place that I know is doing a practice like this, but not everybody is this type of customer. So that's interesting. So I guess just brainstorming a little, have you thought of any strategies that you want to try in this new phase of trying to do a little more outbound and cold stuff?
Yeah, I think that it definitely revolves around shining the spotlight on these early adopters and really using case studies and testimonials and the marketing power that we can provide by highlighting the efforts of these individuals and businesses, showing that We have a growing community. We have a newsletter that goes out to several thousand folks every month. And we are now moving into the space where we have these municipal partnerships where folks are able to have access to our service free of charge to them. That's built into the municipalities' amenities that they provide. So the awareness in our area is growing with this service being available, and so highlighting the folks that are doing it and making that change, and bringing that whole community together around these folks that are choosing to compost their food scraps in a time where, again, there's maybe no immediate financial incentive for them to do so, really helps to show that society is moving towards this. Consumers are more and more aware of these sorts of issues and these systemic problems, and they especially young people, they definitely care, and they definitely want to shop at places that are in line with their values, and they definitely are looking for companies to show some sort of sustainable effort in whatever sector that they are. And this is something that's just so visible and something that's so immediately beneficial, and it's something that folks can really understand and see that it's kind of a no-brainer if you're looking at it from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I was thinking of that as far as the imagery goes. You could just show an entire truck full of food waste that would have ended up in a landfill. I mean, it's almost like you don't even need a headline with that. It's this is what it is. And I think what you said about young people wanting to make value aligned choices with where they shop, that's only going to get higher. So it's you're going to be behind the game if you're a business who's not taking measures to make sure that your company values are in line with your customers.
That's right. And then also, if you really are just a person who cares about the bottom line, and you just are that minded, and until it makes sense for you that you're not going to adopt a service like this. Composting is one of those things that's there's a lot of invisible costs that go into traditional. I hate to even call it traditional because I don't even think it is traditional, but right, how we've been doing things for a long time. There's a lot of invisible costs that go into dumping things into the earth, into landfills. Those costs are then projected onto future generations. Eventually we run out of space. Those landfills cause problems that require more and more money to fix and things like that. And so we don't see the cost of that, but that is still coming out of our society in some way, right? And so building an infrastructure like a composting industry that we're trying to do that's local and just honest and kind of bare bones and simple is really awesome, because it's something we can do quick enough and at scale and cheap enough to really move the needle in the right direction. And you don't need a college degree to be a composter. We can teach you how to do this in a month's time and become an operator on our team. And so we're also creating dignified green jobs in the process, where there's this simultaneous sustainable thing we're trying to do. We're concerning ourselves with the food scraps, and we're concerning ourselves with building sustainable systems of waste management, but also we have to do that
Elevating
with
the
humans.
community.
Yeah, we have to build jobs that sustain ourselves, right? Both financially, physically, spiritually, meaningful things, that folks can connect to.
Yeah, and I think that just reminds me of the whole circular model. You can look at that on a human, emotional development, spirituality level, and you can look at it in the way the business should operate and the way we should treat food. Maybe we can wrap up today. You tell me a little bit, zooming in on how you partner with grocery stores in the Amish farming community.
Yeah, so one of our main grocery store chains here in Cleveland is committed to buying thousands of pounds of produce from the Amish community here in Ohio that grows produce in the seasons that's possible here in Ohio. Those food scraps end up in our system at Rust Belt Riders because we work with all 18 locations of Heinen's grocery stores. And so we turn those food scraps into soil, and then we provide that soil back to the Amish. They actually pick it up in horse and buggy, and it's really cool to see. But it's a direct, really really simple but impactful circle that we've been able to partner with folks to create, where we see that circular economy being built from something that could have just been thrown away as trash, right?
So everybody's getting value and nothing's going to waste, and that's a beautiful partnership.
Yeah.
All right. So is there anything that you would like to, well, okay, let's end with this question. So what is success or growth going to look like maybe in the next 2 years for Rust Belt Riders?
Well, we are in the process of finding a new home. And so that's a big piece of the next 2 years is securing the funding and breaking ground on a new facility that is centrally located in the middle of our city. And that's really important to us because for composting to make sense and for it to be a true sustainable solution, to climate resiliency or building climate resiliency or a solution to climate change, for that to really matter, it has to be local. It doesn't make sense to ship food scraps across state lines far distances in gas-powered vehicles. And so keeping it local is an essential part to making this work. And so we want to see, rather than one giant centralized composting facility in the state, we want to see these like smaller community composting sites spreading throughout the area where folks have access to those types of services right in their neighborhood. So there's like smaller, almost like a federation of compost companies working together that could even help share recipes for the soil blends and techniques and marketing power and brand awareness and all of that. But that is probably more the 10-year plan, I would say. The 2-year plan is really getting that first facility up and running where we can have our offices, our composting, our windrows, education, and storefront all in one space, and really use that as sort of like the megaphone to the community of like, yeah, this is where it all happens.
Well, thank you for telling us all about it today. Thanks for your work and your passion. And it is cool to talk to, I haven't talked to many co-ops, and it seems like a very smart way to do it. So good luck with securing a site and the growth in the coming years, and the impact is just going to grow, and I'm hoping that other cities and states will notice what you're doing and follow suit.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're part of a really great growing number of community composters throughout the country that are really, really close and cooperative, whether they're in a co-op model or not. There's a lot of great folks doing this work, so I definitely invite anybody listening to check out where the closest community composter is to you. Learn about them, support them, reach out, find ways to connect, because that mycelial network that's sort of spreading throughout our country gets stronger and stronger the more time, the more folks plug into it.
Well, that's like the voting with your dollars kind of concept too. It's like when the demand goes up, they're going to have to increase the supply. So, yeah, love it. Well, thank you again, Robert.
My pleasure, Megan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you again to Robert and the Rust Belt Riders team for joining us. Their work is a powerful reminder that climate solutions start locally with people, soil, and community. If you're in Cleveland, be sure to look into their compost drop-off and pickup services. And for everyone else, find your local community composter, because the mycelial network of regenerative change only grows stronger when we're all connected. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more Voices of Disruption.